December 21st, 2000, the Clinton administration signed a rule that would change every diesel engine sold in America. The truck owners who would be paying for it were not in the room. In 2007, every new heavy-duty diesel engine in America arrived with a piece of equipment mandated by that rule. Nobody on the lot explained what it does. Nobody told you what it costs over time. And nobody warned you about what it does to your oil. This is the diesel particulate filter, the DPF. If you own a diesel truck built after 2007, you have one. You did not choose it. It came standard. Here is what it is. A DPF is a ceramic filter mounted in the exhaust system, positioned after the diesel oxidation catalyst. Its job is to trap soot particles before they exit the tailpipe. When exhaust flows through the filter, the soot sticks to the ceramic walls. The clean air passes through. The soot stays behind. That mechanism works. The problem is not the filter. The problem is what happens next. A filter that only collects never clears. Eventually, it fills up. Exhaust cannot push through. Pressure builds behind the filter. The engine starts working harder against its own exhaust system. Power drops, fuel economy falls, and if you let it go long enough, the back pressure climbs high enough to damage your turbocharger. So the engineers who designed this system built in a cleaning cycle. They called it regeneration. And that is where it gets expensive. During regeneration, the ECM takes over. It raises exhaust temperatures to somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. That heat burns the trapped soot into ash. The ash takes up less space, the filter clears, and the cycle starts over. On the highway, this can happen passively. High engine loads naturally produce exhaust hot enough to burn the soot on the way through. You never notice it. The filter cleans itself, and you keep driving. But most diesel trucks do not spend all their time on the highway. Short trips, city driving, construction sites, farm work, anywhere the engine runs under light load and exhaust temperatures stay cool, passive regeneration does not happen. Soot builds. The ECM watches the pressure sensors before and after the filter. When the soot load crosses a threshold, it triggers active regeneration. Active regeneration is where the real cost starts. To raise exhaust temperatures on command, the ECM does something specific. It commands a post-injection, a second shot of diesel fired late in the combustion cycle, after the power stroke is done. That fuel does not do work. It is designed to pass through the cylinder and burn in the exhaust tract, raising temperatures upstream of the DPF to trigger soot burn-off. Here is what they did not put in the owner's manual. Not all of that post-injected fuel makes it to the exhaust. Some of it adheres to the cylinder walls during the expansion stroke. It slides past the piston rings, and it ends up in the crankcase, in your oil. Diesel fuel and engine oil is not a small problem. Oil is designed to maintain a specific viscosity. Fuel thins it. A diluted oil loses lubrication efficiency. The protective additive package breaks down faster. Bearing surfaces that depend on a consistent oil film start wearing against each other in ways they were never designed to handle. Research published through the Society of Automotive Engineers confirmed the mechanism. Post-injection during DPF regeneration creates measurable fuel dilution in the crankcase. Engine lubricant oil standards consider levels above 5% unacceptable. In real-world short-trip applications, fuel dilution has been recorded as high as 50%. 50%! That is not a contaminated oil sample. That is engine wear on a schedule. The fix is more frequent oil changes. Not from wear, not from mileage, but because the emission system your truck was mandated to carry keeps fouling the oil with fuel. Now, why did any of this become law? On December 21, 2000, the EPA signed a final rule for model year 2007 and later heavy-duty highway engines. The agency announced it that day as the most significant mobile source emissions program since Congress adopted the Clean Air Act amendments in 1970. The scale was not exaggerated. The rule set a particulate matter standard of 0.01 grams per brake horsepower hour. The previous limit, established in 1994, had been 0.1 grams. That is a 90% reduction. The previous standard had been met through engine design alone: better injection systems, tighter tolerances, optimized combustion chambers. Nobody needed an exhaust filter to hit 0.1. Nobody could hit 0.01 without one. The new standard was specifically written to force after-treatment hardware into every diesel exhaust system. Beginning with the 2007 model year, 100% of on-road heavy-duty diesel engines were required to use a diesel particulate filter.
Not optional equipment, not a recommended upgrade, mandatory. Every engine, every truck. And because DPF systems are destroyed by sulfur, the rule also mandated ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel. Sulfur content dropped from 500 parts per million down to 15. That took full effect in 2006, 1 year ahead of the engines, because you cannot run a DPF on fuel that poisons the filter before the soot even fills it up. Engine manufacturers had 7 years to comply from the signing date. They spent those 7 years rebuilding exhaust systems around hardware that added cost, added complexity, and added maintenance requirements to engines that had been getting simpler and more reliable for decades. So what does this actually cost? Start with the filter itself. A DPF is a precision ceramic substrate coated with precious metals. It is not a $50 part. When one fails on a diesel pickup, and they do fail, especially on trucks used for short trip and low-load work where passive regeneration never completes, dealership replacement runs between $3,000 and $5,500. Heavy commercial trucks can exceed $12,000. That number is not for the whole repair. That is the filter. Then there's the fuel. Every active regeneration cycle burns extra diesel to raise exhaust temperatures. That fuel produces zero useful work. Estimates put the fuel penalty at roughly 20% per active regeneration event. Over the life of a high-mileage work truck that cycles through city driving, short hauls, and variable loads, the number of active regenerations adds up fast. And there is the oil. More frequent changes, not from wear, not from mileage, from fuel dilution caused by an emission system the truck owner never asked for and cannot legally remove. The EPA had real reasons for the rule. Particulate matter from pre-2007 diesel engines contributed to respiratory disease, asthma, and fine particle exposure in cities. That was a documented problem. The regulation addressed it. The air got cleaner. But every dollar of the solution, the hardware, the maintenance, the fuel penalty, the accelerated oil changes, the $1,000 cleaning appointments, the $4,000 filter replacements, every dollar of that lands on the truck owner. The filter sits in your exhaust system. You paid for it. You maintain it. You replace it when the ceramic fails and the pressure sensors throw a code and the truck goes into limp mode on the way to work. The EPA's air is cleaner. Your engine is the thing paying the price.